the shadowed depths of Chippewa National Forest, where the ancient pines stand as silent sentinels over a land steeped in secrets, 5 friends unwittingly crossed a threshold into a nightmare carved into the earth. This is no mere campfire ghost story. It's a true, harrowing chronicle of terror, a plunge into an abandoned bunker that thrummed with a sinister vitality despite its apparent decay. On a crisp October night in 2023, their cherished annual camping tradition morphed into a descent beyond the boundaries of the rational, where the air thickened with the weight of unseen eyes and the past clawed its way into the present. What they unearthed, a Cold War relic still pulsing with purpose, shattered their minds and claimed one of their own in a fate more chilling than death. This is the meticulously documented unraveling of Tyler, Mark, Brandon, Jessica, and Ashley, a tale of friendship forged in trust and broken by the abyss, preserved in photographs that whisper truths no authority will acknowledge. Have you ever ventured into the unknown, only to find it staring back? Are you brave enough to peer into the dark with us? The northward trek to Chippewa National Forest began at dawn on October 14, 2023, a 3-hour odyssey that unfolded with the rhythmic hum of tires against the asphalt, a sound that lulled the group into a nostalgic reverie. For Tyler, Mark, Brandon, Jessica, and Ashley, this annual pilgrimage had evolved into a sacred ritual since their sophomore year at the University of Minnesota Duluth, sparked by Brandon's earnest plea for a tradition that transcended the chaos of college parties and the claustrophobic confines of shared apartments. The idea had taken root 2 years prior, a spontaneous pact sealed over lukewarm coffee and half-eaten pizza, and now, in the waning light of autumn, it had become their anchor, a respite from the relentless grind of exams, internships, and the digital tether of modern life. The Jeep, a battle-scarred relic of Tyler's high school years, groaned under the weight of their gear. 2 sturdy 4-person tents, a collapsible table, 5 weathered lawn chairs, sleeping bags still faintly scented with last year's campfire smoke, and a cooler brimming with ice, sandwiches, and Ashley's obsessive hoard of snacks. Granola bars, beef jerky, trail mix, and a stash of chocolate she swore was emergency fuel. Mark claimed the front passenger seat with the authority of a DJ, his fingers deftly navigating the stereo to unleash an eclectic cacophony of indie rock, bands like The National and Fleet Foxes, interspersed with obscure tracks from artists Tyler couldn't place, their melodies weaving a soundtrack to the journey. In the back, Jessica and Ashley sprawled across the seat, their laughter punctuating the air as they joined Mark's exaggerated renditions of lyrics, their voices rising in mock harmony when he butchered a particularly absurd chorus. Brandon, squeezed into the middle with a map spread across his lap, offered occasional navigation tips, his engineer's mind already plotting the campsite layout. As they veered off Highway 2 onto a narrow forest road, the landscape transformed. Chippewa National Forest unfurled in all its wild glory. Towering pines stretched toward a sky streaked with amber and violet, their needles carpeting the ground in a rust-colored tapestry, while rolling hills undulated like the breath of the earth itself. Tyler had chosen this spot with the reverence of a pilgrim returning to sacred ground. As a child, his father had brought him here to fish along the shores of Leech Lake, a memory preserved in the creak of an old rowboat and the glint of a sunfish on the line. He knew this clearing, 50 yards from the lake's edge, as a sanctuary unmarred by the bustle of official campgrounds or the scrutiny of rangers demanding permits. The lake itself loomed in the distance, its surface a deep, almost opaque black, broken only by the occasional silver arc of a fish breaking the stillness, a perfect mirror for the fading light. The weather was a gift, a crisp 45 degrees Fahrenheit that promised the comfort of a fire without the bone-chilling cold that would confine them to their sleeping bags. Unloading the Jeep was a choreography of familiarity. Tyler and Mark tackled the tents, their hands moving with the muscle memory of past trips. Unrolling canvas, threading poles through sleeves, staking corners into the soft earth with rhythmic thuds. The process took an hour, the air filled with the scent of pine and the soft curses when a pole bent slightly. Ashley, ever the planner, emptied the cooler with military precision, arranging snacks on the table in neat stacks, her voice a steady refrain of, "What if we run out?" A worry that had become a running gag. Jessica, her scientific mind ever methodical, tested her new camping stove not once but twice, adjusting the flame until it burned a steady blue, her satisfaction palpable as she envisioned tomorrow's coffee. Brandon, drawing on his internship-honed skills, scoured the perimeter for firewood, selecting dry logs and kindling with an engineer's eye, stacking them in a pyramid that promised a robust blaze. As the sun dipped below the tree line, casting long shadows that danced with the undergrowth, Brandon struck a match, and the fire roared to life, its warmth a beacon in the cooling dusk. They'd timed it perfectly, early enough to set up in daylight, late enough to slide seamlessly into campfire mode without the awkward lull of waiting. Tyler retrieved the lawn chairs from the Jeep, their metal frames creaking as he arranged them in a loose semicircle around the pit, the firelight reflecting off their worn surfaces. The flames caught quickly, fed by Brandon's carefully chosen wood, illuminating the campsite in a golden glow that softened the edges of the forest beyond. Mark, ever the pyromaniac, impaled marshmallows on a stick, roasting them with a childlike glee that belied his 21 years, the sugary scent mingling with the smoke. Ashley settled into her chair with a contented sigh, her teasing voice cutting through the crackle. "Remember that high school Esmores fiasco when you nearly burned your backyard down?" Mark waved his stick dismissively, a grin tugging at his lips. "That was different. I had no clue lighter fluid was flammable." Jessica, her tone dry as the kindling, retorted, "That's literally its whole job." The group erupted in laughter, the ease of their bond a tangible thread weaving through the night. The fire popped as sap heated, a punctuation to their stories. Brandon's internship triumphs, Ashley's art class struggles with a stubborn canvas, Jessica's rants about a chemistry professor whose assignments seemed designed to crush souls. For Tyler, the moment was pure. No phones buzzing with notifications, no deadlines looming, just the primal comfort of friends around a fire in the wilderness's heart. "We should do this more than once a year," Mark mused, poking a stick into the flames, his eyes tracking the embers as if decoding their dance. Tyler nodded, a pang of nostalgia stirring. Did Mark miss the unburdened days of childhood more than the rest? In that fleeting hour, the world shrank to their circle of light, the forest a silent guardian. But beneath the pines, something stirred, its presence a whisper on the wind, waiting to shatter their peace. The harmony splintered with Mark's sudden cry, his voice a jagged edge slicing through Ashley's tale of her roommate's bizarre boyfriend. "Did you guys see that?" he asked, his marshmallow stick halting midair, its tip glowing faintly. Brandon's head whipped around, his flashlight beam sweeping the perimeter, anticipating the glint of raccoon eyes or the rustle of a deer. But Mark's finger stabbed toward the dense pine thicket behind the tents. There was a light, just for a second, but definitely a light, a sharp white flash like a flashlight beam. Tyler pivoted, his own light joining the search, but the forest returned only darkness, the lake's distant shimmer a cold, unhelpful mirror. "Probably just a reflection off the water," he ventured, though the words felt hollow, a thin shield against the unease prickling his skin. Mark shook his head, his brow furrowing. "No, it was in the woods. Deliberate, like someone switched it on and off." Jessica leaned forward, her chair creaking under her shift, her voice a cautious probe. "Could be other campers. We're not that far from the main trails." Ashley tugged her blanket tighter, her tone light but strained. "As long as they stay over there, I'm fine with it." Yet Mark's expression darkened, a familiar glint igniting in his eyes, a puzzle piece sliding into place, the prelude to one of his impulsive quests. Tyler had seen it before, during late-night debates or spontaneous road trips, and it always ended with Mark dragging them into the unknown. He kept glancing toward the tree line, his distraction a silent undercurrent beneath their chatter about college woes and weekend plans. After 20 minutes of this restless vigilance, he stood abruptly, his chair scraping the earth. "I'm going to check it out," Tyler sighed, setting his mug down. "Check what out?" "The light. I need to see what it was." Jessica rolled her eyes, her skepticism a shield. "Mark, it was a reflection or a distant headlight. There's nothing there." "Then it won't take long to prove me wrong," Mark shot back, already striding toward his tent, his flashlight in hand a talisman against the dark. Brandon exchanged a knowing look with Tyler. They both recognized that stubborn lilt, the tone that signaled an idea lodged deep, unshakable until satisfied. Arguing would only stoke his resolve. "Fine," Tyler conceded, brushing pine needles from his jeans. "But when we're eaten alive by mosquitoes for nothing, I'm blaming you." Mark's grin flashed, a boyish thrill lighting his face as if Tyler had agreed to an adventure rather than a fool's errand. The others rose reluctantly, their footsteps a reluctant chorus, bound by the unspoken loyalty of their years together. At 9:15 p.m., they armed themselves with flashlights, their beams cutting jagged paths through the night. The forest transformed under the moonless sky, its familiar trails twisting into a maze of shadows and unseen roots. Mark led with a confidence that belied the darkness, his light bobbing ahead like a will-o'-the-wisp. "Which direction was the light?" Brandon asked after 5 minutes, his voice muffled by the dense air. Mark paused, tilting his head as if the memory were a compass. "More this way," he said, veering left into thicker undergrowth. The bushes closed in, their branches snagging jackets, spiderwebs brushing faces with ghostly fingers. Ashley muttered about arachnids. Jessica questioned the sanity of their trek, and Tyler called ahead. "How much farther?" "Not much," Mark replied, his voice a distant echo. "I think we're close." Tyler doubted it. Every pine trunk, every fallen log, blurred into sameness under the dark's veil. But Mark's determination was a current they couldn't resist. 20 minutes into the hike, Jessica's startled cry pierced the silence. "What the hell? I just kicked something metal." Their lights converged, illuminating a glint beneath moss and decaying leaves. Not a can or scrap, but a deliberate edge. They knelt, hands brushing aside nature's camouflage, uncovering a steel door set into the ground at a 30-degree angle, its hinges robust, its lock a fortress of rusted iron. "What is this doing out here?" Ashley whispered, her breath visible in the cold. Tyler ran his fingers along the seam, feeling the earth's firm grip, the metal cold and unyielding. "It's old but solid. Been here years, decades, maybe." Brandon scanned the surroundings, his engineer's mind piecing together possibilities. "A bunker, perhaps?" Mark reached for the handle, but Tyler's hand clamped his wrist. "Wait, we should think this through, the risks, the unknowns." The group huddled, flashlights casting a fragile halo. Ashley traced the frame, marveling at its precision, welds too clean for amateur hands. Jessica noted the hinges, free of rust despite the damp. "Someone's maintained this," she said, her voice tight. Brandon's gaze lingered on the lock's complexity. "The engineering suggests serious investment, military maybe, which is why we need to see inside." Mark pressed, his eagerness a live wire. Tyler countered, "Or it could be dangerous, traps, instability." Mark's grin widened. 5 minutes. We look, and if it feels wrong, we leave." The compromise hung in the air, a fragile truce. Tyler gripped the handle, expecting resistance, but the door swung open with eerie ease, revealing a concrete staircase descending into a lit abyss. An electrical hum rose to meet them, a heartbeat in the dark. "That's not normal," Jessica muttered, her light catching the pristine steps. The group descended, 15 feet into a cavernous room, its walls lined with vintage radio equipment. Analog dials and switches from the 1960s or 70s, their green and red lights pulsing like living things. "This is unreal," Brandon breathed, stepping toward the panels. Ashley turned slowly, awestruck. "How's there electricity here? Miles from anywhere?" Tyler's phone showed no signal, a dead zone, and the air, fresh from a hidden ventilation system, defied the musty expectation of abandonment. A map dominated the far wall, a classroom relic with red pins marking remote spots. Minnesota, Michigan, Canada, connected by cryptic lines that twisted like veins. Mark touched the dials, his fingers recoiling. "They're warm. Someone's been using this recently." Brandon found a desk, its surface cluttered with a logbook, its pages filled with coded entries. Dates, Coordinates, a meticulous record. Ashley read aloud. November 15th, 2023, 3 weeks prior. This place is still operational, Tyler said, a chill seeping into his bones. Jessica urged retreat, but Mark pointed to a hallway beyond. There's more. 5 minutes had stretched into the grip of curiosity, and they followed, drawn deeper into a labyrinth that pulsed with secrets. The hallway constricted, its concrete walls amplifying their footsteps into an eerie cadence, a rhythm that echoed from unseen depths. Steel doors lined the passage, their surfaces identical, unmarked, unyielding, like the gates of a crypt. Brandon tested the first, its handle yielding to reveal 4 metal bunk beds. Their mattresses taut, blankets folded with military precision, signs of recent habitation. Someone's living here, Ashley said, her voice a tremulous thread, her fingers brushing a frame still cool from use. The next room held 6 bunks, personal items strewn across them. Worn paperbacks, a folded shirt, a charging phone. A tableau of permanence rather than transient camping. Mark's tension mounted, his glances backward growing frantic, his flashlight beam jittering like a nervous pulse. The third door opened to a kitchen, its refrigerator humming a low dirge, its stove radiating warmth with the rich scent of vegetable soup. Clean dishes gleamed in a drying rack, a coffee maker cradled fresh grounds, its glass pot still damp. Ashley opened the fridge. Milk with an expiration date of October 20th, vegetables crisp from a recent harvest, packaged goods weeks from spoilage. This soup's still warm, Tyler said, his hand hovering over the pot, the steam a ghostly wisp. Someone was here an hour ago, cooking, eating, living. Mark froze, his flashlight sweeping the hall. Did you hear that? He whispered, his voice cracking. Footsteps, he insisted. But the ventilation's steady drone masked all else, a white noise that could conceal a predator's tread. You're on edge, Ashley soothed, though her eyes darted to the shadows. They pressed on, finding storage rooms stocked with canned goods, medical kits, camping gear, batteries, and tools, everything for a subterranean existence. The organization was impeccable, labels crisp, shelves aligned, a testament to sustained care. Mark's paranoia deepened, his whispers of watchers growing insistent. In a room of communication equipment, radios and antennas humming with latent power, he stopped, his voice a hiss. There it is again. Did you hear it? Only the bunker's mechanical pulse answered, the air circulation, the electrical buzz, the occasional creak of settling concrete. They're here, watching us, he muttered, pressing against the wall, his flashlight jerking across the ceiling. Tyler stepped closer, his voice steady. There's no one. Look at me. But Mark's eyes glazed, seeing phantoms. They told me not to trust you, he said, his grin a hollow mask. The group exchanged glances, fear threading their bond. We need to get him out, Tyler whispered to Brandon, his heart pounding. Mark backed away, murmuring to invisible voices, his words a garbled plea. He's lost it, Ashley said, her face paling. They retreated to the main room, hoping the open space would anchor him. At 10:47 p.m., with no sign of Mark, Jessica insisted, I'm going back. They returned to find the hallway empty. His footprints vanished into the dust, a ghost's trail. Mark! They shouted, searching every room. Bunks, kitchen, storage, nothing. A hidden door in a supply closet revealed an office. A metal desk cluttered with papers, filing cabinets, dark monitors. Photographs littered the surface, them in the bunker, others with empty, terrified eyes. One showed Mark, lifeless, with red ink scrawled across. He is one of them. Terror seized them, a visceral claw. We need to leave, Tyler gasped, stuffing photos into his pockets, evidence of a horror unfolding. They sprinted up the stairs, the bunker's hum now a predator's growl. Outside, the forest air was a lifeline, but Mark was gone. They searched for hours, finding no trace, the steel door clicking shut with finality. Exhausted, they drove to Duluth, the photos their only proof, dismissed by police as a prank. 6 months later, Tyler's investigation linked the bunker to missing persons. Sarah Chen, James Rodriguez, others, revealing a system still active, with Mark transformed into something unrecognizable. The photos remain, a silent scream in the dark.